I can't buy the air I breathe. I can't buy the trees. I can't buy the deepest seas. But it don't matter, 'cause they're there for free.
Hello and welcome to Around the World in 88 Tales. I'm David Heathfield here at the Royal Albert Memorial Museum, which I've been going to ever since I was a little boy. Can you imagine? And I'm delighted to be here also with another place from my childhood, because I live in Exeter. I've always lived here in Devon, but my family are from Wales. And this is Eirian Wyn Conlon. Bore da.
Bore da. Bore da, David.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
And you're in Wold, is that right?
Yes, North East Wales, yes.
Wonderful. It's great that you're with us, and I'm excited to see that you're with your harp as well.
I am.
But Eirian, before we get started with the stories, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and your interest in stories and Welsh language and culture?
Right, okay. Well, at the moment, I write coursebooks for people who are learning Welsh all over the world since the pandemic, but people who are learning Welsh, adults. I'm interested in Welsh stories because, first of all, I was an actress, and as part of that, I used to do workshops for children in various historical places. And then I taught a little bit in a school, and we had a lot of stories in the school. And then eventually, as I became a Welsh language tutor and author, I've amalgamated stories into some lessons and also particularly into the books that we've written. And the story I'm going to tell is actually in the intermediate book that we've written.
Fantastic. That's wonderful. And of course, I met you a few times at language teaching conferences, and then I was invited to Nant Gwrtheyrn in the north of Wales, and I spoke at your conference about using storytelling in teaching languages, which was absolutely wonderful.
Exactly. And the story I'm going to say today is from that village, as you know, because you asked me to say the story to your students.
That's right. That's right.
And then I think did I do a cassette or something?
That's right.
Or a little video, I don't remember.
It was when you're recording for the students that were learning English, and you told us about Welsh culture. It's fantastic you're with us. And let's move on now to the storytelling and the artifact. And it's going to be just wonderful, because if you look where how Eirian is positioned next to her harp, and then you look at this picture, this artifact is a harp player or a lyre player. It's a female figure from the ancient world, from ancient Cyprus, and it dates back a very long time, to 750 to 325 BC, so that kind of time zone. And it shows a woman, or perhaps a goddess, in robes, playing or carrying her harp or lyre, and she's in draped clothing. She's wearing a bracelet, a headdress, a necklace, and you can still see some red paint, some red pigment on her dress. And this figure would probably have been a temple offering. So there we are. A beautiful harp player from the ancient world, and we've still got harp players today. And my story also concerns a harp. So this figure inspires this Scottish story, which I've heard told, but also I've heard sung. But I'm going to tell it mostly. So as you join us, please tell us on Facebook or even on YouTube where you are and who you are, and you feel free to join in and leave comments in the chat. Here we go. There were once long ago a king and a queen, and they lived not far from a beautiful, fast-flowing, narrow river, Binnorie. They lived with their 2 daughters. One day, the older brother of those daughters, whose name was Hugh, came home from his studies, and he brought with him a friend, William. Immediately, William was talking to those 2 sisters, and the 2 sisters enjoyed his company. He was handsome, with a dark curl of hair on his forehead. Soon it was arranged that sweet William would be married to the older sister. But as time went on and the wedding was approaching, it was the case that William looked fondly at the younger sister, and the younger sister enjoyed his company too. And the older sister became increasingly jealous of the affections between her younger sister and her betrothed. So the older sister one day said, "My younger sister, come with me down to where the river flows fast, near the mill. There we will see over to the open waters of the ocean, where our father's ship may return soon. Come, come." And the younger sister went with her older sister down, and they stood on the banks of Binnorie. And the older sister said, "Look, stand on tiptoe, close to the edge. You can see better." And as she did so, the older sister seized her and threw her into the fast-flowing water. And she was carried away downstream. And the younger sister called, my sister, why do you do this? Why have you thrown me into the river?" "Oh, because you were taking my dear William away from me." "Oh, no, sister, you can have William, but save me, sister, I cannot swim." But already her older sister had turned away and was walking back towards the castle. The younger sister floated and then sank beneath the waters. Her dress of pure white linen floated with her in it down towards the mill. And there was the miller, and he saw this apparition in the water. At first he thought it was a swan, but when she came closer, he saw that it was a maid. And when he pulled her from the water, she was drowned. The miller, fearing for his own life, put the body of that beautiful maiden into the long grass, hidden. Time went by. The younger daughter was missing, and the king and the queen now were preparing for the wedding of their older daughter and William. Many people gathered, but there was no joy in the court. The king sent for a harp-player to entertain them at the wedding, and this harp-player travelled from great distances. He came to a bridge near the mill, and as he crossed the bridge, he saw something gleaming in the grass. He went over and looked, and there were the bones and the long golden hair of the younger sister. He took the breastbone and made it into a harp, and using strands of hair, he strung it. And then he carried that harp, along with his own harp, to the castle. Already the guests were gathered. The king and the queen sat on their thrones. William was about to be married, and the harp player stood, and the king said, "Play." And he took his own harp, but the king said, "No, play this other harp that you have brought." So he took up the harp made of bone, and he plucked it. But strange to say, the harp began to sing. "Oh, there sits my father the king, Binnorie, oh Binnorie. And by him sits my mother the queen, by the bonny mill banks of Binnorie. Oh, there stands my brother Hugh, Binnorie, oh Binnorie. And by him William, both sweet and true, by the bonny mill banks of Binnorie. And by him my sister who drowned me, by the bonny mill banks of Binnorie. And the bone harp cracked and played no more. So there we are, a Scottish story song, Binnorie. How sad. Eirian, that's a harp story. And you've got a harp, and here is the harp playing figure.
Well, the reason I've chosen this harp to sing is that I feel that there's a bit of an echo, David. Do you want to put yourself on mute? Right, okay. And when I played the story to you, said the story of Rhys and Meinir, I thought of a folk song that isn't actually connected to the story, but I feel it's very, very much connected. So I've brought the song into the story. So shall I tell you the story now?
Please do tell the story, and I can tell you there's a few people joining us in the room, so it's great that you're joining us. Tell us where you're from, and let's enjoy a story from Eirian Wyn Conlon in Wales.
Bendigedig, that means brilliant. Okay, so Eirian dwi, I'm Eirian, a dwi'n mynd I ddeud stori Rhys a Meinir. I'm going to tell you the story of Rhys and Meinir. Rhys and Meinir were two young people in love. They lived in a beautiful village called Nant Gwrtheyrn, where David has been. Nant Gwrtheyrn is on the sea on the west coast of North Wales. It's very beautiful. The sea is in front, the mountains surround it, and then around the village itself there is a forest of trees. Meinir and Rhys used to love walking around their own happy area. They loved this area very much. One day, Rhys asked Meinir to come with him to the forest, where he wanted to show her the oldest tree in the forest. So he showed her the oak tree, where he had carved their initials. Now I'll just show you. It would look something like this. R is one letter in Welsh. The Welsh alphabet has double letters. So this is Rhys and Meinir. So he had carved in a heart, he'd carved the initials. And he said to Meinir, Meinir, I love you very much. And he sang her a very beautiful folk song. We had changed the name from Lisa to Meinir, and this is how it sounded. Bym yn dy garu lawer gwaith, do lawer awr mewn mwynder mair. Bym yn dy gusanu Meinir gel, yr oedd dy gwmni yn well na'r mel. And he asked Meinir to marry him. Of course, she agreed, and a date was set. When the day of the wedding came, Meinir put on her beautiful silk dress of white. She put on her lovely lace veil. But then she remembered that there was a tradition in the village where the groom's friends would play a trick on the bride and would kidnap her for an hour so that she would be late for her own wedding. So she decided that she would trick Rhys's friends, and she went to hide and wait until the coast was clear, and then she would come out and go with her father to the church. Rhys was waiting in the church. Meinir was a little bit late. He wasn't worried. He knew about the tradition. Then an hour went by. There was no Meinir. 2 hours, 3 hours, no sign of Meinir. The sun set over the sea, and Meinir had not arrived to her own wedding. Everybody knew something terrible had happened. Rhys and his friends, with candles, went around the village, around the seashore, up to the mountains, into the forest. There was no sign anywhere of Meinir. The next morning, when the sun rose, everybody from the village went to look for Meinir. She was nowhere to be found, nowhere. The next day, the following day, less and less people came to help Rhys, but every day Rhys would walk around the forest, the seaside, the village, the mountain, looking for his love. One day, the sun was setting, and he sat under the tree and sang another verse of the song, thinking of his hiraeth for Meinir. Now, hiraeth is a word that we can't translate into English. It means something like longing, yearning, even homesickness for a person or a place. So listen out for the word hiraeth in this verse. Pan fyddwy'n rhodio gyda'r hwyr, fy nghalon fach a dodd fel cwyr, wrth glywed sŵn y radar man, daw hiraeth mawr am Meinir lan. So every day he carried on for the whole year. 1 year exactly to the day when Meinir disappeared. There was a terrible storm in Nant Gwrtheyrn. The wind was howling, the water, the rain was lashing down, and still Rhys roamed around looking for Meinir. He found himself sitting under the same tree where he had carved their initials, sheltering under the rain. And he sang the last verse of the song, which asks Meinir to follow him to his grave and join him there. Meinir, a ddoi di'n danfon ni, I roi fy nghorff mewn deiar ddi. Meinir, a ddoi di fanwyl ffrind, hyd lan y bedd, lle rwyf yn mynd. And as he sang the last note, there was thunder and a flash of lightning, and the lightning bolt fell down at the ground and split the tree open. The tree was hollow, and in the hollow there was a skeleton, and on the skeleton there were fragments of white silk and white lace. Rhys realised that Meinir had hidden in the tree, had fallen into the hollow, and died where he had asked her to marry him. No one would ever have been able to find her. Immediately, Rhys's heart broke in two, and he fell at the floor, dead. When the villagers found Rhys and Meinir, they took them to the graveyard of the church where they were to be married, and they were lain down together in a grave to be together forever. And that is the story of Rhys and Meinir. So I hope you enjoyed that story. If you're interested in finding out more about Nant Gwrtheyrn, where the story was set, you can look at the website www.nantgwrtheyrn.org, which David will share, and you'll see how beautiful the place is and how interesting the language centre is. And if you go on www.learnwelsh.cymru, who I work for, you will be able to learn some Welsh, as so many people are doing around the world now with Zoom. And you're very, very welcome. And diolch, David. Thank you so much for inviting me to this fantastic project.
Well, diolch to you, because it's absolute delight, and there's so much resonance between the two stories we've shared, aren't there? There's so much kind of amazing resonance between those two stories of loss and love, and beautiful. And thank you for bringing the Welsh language, the oldest language from these islands, and the original language, if you like, of these islands. So it's so beautiful to hear. That's just fantastic. Thank you so much, Eirian, for joining us today and being part of this project. Around the World in 88 Tales, and all inspired. And I wonder what stories the women of ancient Greece, ancient world, ancient in Cyprus were telling with their harps and lyres 2,500 years ago. Probably not so different. Thank you so much, Eirian.
Well, bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.
I can't buy the trees. I can't buy the deepest seas, but it don't matter, 'cause they're there for free.